When Karen called ICE on the wrong veteran, karma didn't just knock, it kicked the door down. I moved to Willow Creek Estates for peace, not drama. After 5 years of service in Iraq, I just wanted quiet mornings, hot coffee, and the sound of my flag swaying in the wind. But peace doesn't last long when your neighbor is a self-proclaimed patriot with a twisted idea of what that word means. My name's Miguel Lopez, half Mexican, half Caucasian, born in Texas and proud of every inch of it. But to Karen Hopkins, head of the HOA and unofficial sheriff of the block, Lopez was enough to start a war. At first, she came with fake smiles and awkward compliments. "Oh, you have such a rich culture," she said once, as if she was complimenting an endangered species. Then came the questions, too many of them. "So, are you renting or did you actually buy this house? Do you work locally or how do you afford it?" I ignored it all. Veterans are taught to pick their battles. But when someone writes "go back" on your mailbox, you realize you're already in one. I cleaned it off, fixed the box, and installed a camera. I didn't tell anyone, not even the few decent neighbors who waved every morning. I knew whoever had done it would show their hand soon. The next Friday, my instincts proved right. 2 black SUVs rolled into the neighborhood like they owned it. 3 ICE agents stepped out, serious faces, bulletproof vests, and a clipboard in hand. "Miguel Lopez?" one asked. "Yes, sir," I said calmly, drying my hands from washing my truck. "We received a report questioning your immigration status." My heart sank for half a second, not from guilt, but from disgust. I already knew who had made that call. I pulled out my driver's license, veteran ID, and discharge papers. The agent's eyebrows shot up. "You served?" he asked. "2 tours in Iraq." He nodded, stood straighter, and saluted. "Thank you for your service, sir." Behind him, I saw movement. Karen, pretending to check her flowers, phone in hand, recording like she just caught a criminal. The agent noticed her too. "Ma'am," he called out, "did you file this report?" Karen smiled like she'd just won the neighborhood lottery. "Yes, officer, that's him. But before she could finish, the agent cut her off. "Ma'am, this man's a decorated veteran. You just wasted federal time and resources." Her face drained of color. Neighbors peeked through blinds, whispering. I didn't need to say anything. The silence roasted her better than words ever could. The agents apologized to me before leaving. One of them even handed me a small flag pin saying, "Men like you are the reason this country stands." The irony was so thick it could choke. Karen turned around and scurried into her house like a raccoon caught in daylight. I thought maybe she'd stop. She didn't. That night, her gossip machine went into overdrive. "Don't believe what I said," she texted half the street. "He forged his military papers." It would have been funny if it wasn't so pathetic. That's when I decided enough was enough. She wanted to treat me like a criminal? Fine. Let's see what her perfect little world looked like under a microscope. I started small. Some online searches, public records, a few local business listings. Her husband, Bob Hopkins, ran a construction company, roofing, painting, small jobs. I'd seen his truck 100 times, parked crookedly across the street like rules didn't apply to him either. Something about him had always felt off, and my gut's never wrong. Turns out his business license hadn't been renewed in over a year. Then I found online reviews complaining about under-the-table pay and cash-only work. I tracked down one of his workers from a nearby site, a quiet guy named Juan who recognized Bob immediately. Over a friendly beer, Juan told me everything. He pays half the guy's cash. No paperwork, no IDs. Says it saves him taxes. I thanked him, bought him lunch, and went home smiling. Karen had tried to destroy my reputation with one call. She had no idea I was about to bury hers with evidence. Over the next few days, I collected everything. Screenshots, recordings, photos of Bob's crew working late nights without helmets or permits. I even caught a video of him bragging about cheap labor. Then, with the same calm precision the Army taught me, I packaged it all neatly in a folder titled Justice for Karen and sent it anonymously to ICE. I didn't expect fireworks overnight. But karma doesn't miss appointments. It just arrives when it's most inconvenient. 2 weeks later, it showed up in full uniform. Karma doesn't need a warning. It just shows up with flashing lights. 2 weeks later, Willow Creek Estates woke up to a scene straight out of Poetic Justice. The same black SUVs that once pulled up at my driveway were now parked in front of Karen's house. I was sipping coffee on my porch when I saw the agent step out, calm and focused. The neighbors who once whispered about me were now gathering behind curtains, watching the queen of the HOA face her own investigation. Bob Hopkins was standing on his lawn in a wrinkled T-shirt, arguing with an agent who was holding a familiar-looking clipboard. From where I sat, I could see the top page, the payroll log I had sent in, the one with those sloppy cash entries. Karen came running out in her floral robe, her tiny dog barking like it could stop federal law. "This is harassment," she screamed. "You're supposed to go after the illegals, not homeowners." The lead agent didn't even flinch. "Ma'am, hiring undocumented workers is a federal offense. Your husband's company is under investigation." You could see the realization crash over her face like a tidal wave. The same ICE officer who had saluted me weeks earlier looked up, spotted me across the street, and gave the slightest nod before turning back to his paperwork. It was almost too perfect. Karen's voice cracked as she tried to explain that she didn't know anything about her husband's business, but the evidence spoke louder than her denial. The agents loaded boxes from Bob's truck into their SUVs, files, receipts, maybe even cash. When they finally escorted Bob into one of the vehicles, Karen shouted, "This is a setup!" Somebody planted this. I raised my coffee mug and called out, "You're right, Karen. Sometimes the truth really is planted." A few neighbors actually laughed out loud. She turned red, grabbed her dog, and stormed inside. The next few days, you could feel the shift in the neighborhood. People who used to avoid me now waved. Some even brought food, saying they never believed her anyway. The HOA board held an emergency meeting without Karen for the first time in years. Word got out that Bob's company was being hit with fines and that both he and Karen might be facing court. I didn't celebrate publicly. I just went about my days quietly, trimming my lawn, flying my flag, and letting karma finish its paperwork. A month later, I got an official letter from the Department of Homeland Security, thanking me for the anonymous tip that helped expose a labor fraud network in the area. It was the kind of closure you can't buy, but karma wasn't quite done yet. When the Hopkins hearing came, I showed up, not to gloat, but to witness the ending. Karen and Bob sat stiffly at the defense table. The judge read out the charges: hiring undocumented workers, falsifying payroll, evading taxes. Their faces drained of pride, of that smug superiority they once carried like perfume. The prosecutor introduced the ICE agent who had investigated them, yes, the same one who had apologized to me in my driveway. He confirmed everything. The judge leaned forward, her tone sharp but calm. "Next time you decide to report your neighbors, make sure your own house is clean." Karen blinked rapidly, tears gathering but never falling. The verdict came fast: 3 months in federal custody, $38,000 in fines, and suspension of Bob's business license. The courtroom stayed silent except for the sound of Karen's shaky breath. I sat in the back, wearing my veteran pin and that same subtle smile that said everything words couldn't. When the gavel hit, it echoed like justice itself. A week later, a big red "For Sale" sign appeared in front of their house. The same woman who once said my truck didn't fit the neighborhood aesthetic now had federal tape across her front door. Neighbors whispered, but this time it wasn't about me. It was about the fall of their self-appointed ruler. One evening, I hosted a barbecue for the whole block. Nothing fancy, just burgers, music, laughter, and freedom in the air. I raised a toast to honest work, to good neighbors, and to minding your own damn business. Even the mailman showed up and laughed when I joked that the HOA meetings were finally peaceful. Across the street, Karen's moving van was being loaded. She refused to look my way, but she didn't need to. The silence between us said everything. I didn't wave, didn't smirk, didn't say a single word. I just stood under my flag, the same flag she once tried to have removed for being too large for HOA standards. That flag, that symbol, had outlasted her pride. As the sun dipped behind the houses, I thought about the irony. She tried to erase me, but in the end, she erased herself. The woman who called ICE on me ended up in their reports herself. That's not just karma. That's America reminding her what justice really looks like. The end.